No, but
Okay,
I'm
we've
sure.
got Big Meep.
Hi, Big Meep. Economy Yeti. I love that
Big
everyone has
Meep is
a.
one of my teammates.
Oh, right.
He's one of the humble Hive boys.
An humble Meep. We're talking about the Steam tournament, and actually, Randy was showing me something. I don't know if you want to show it again.
Well, you can't hear
Ah,
hear
that's
the
that
audio, so
that's true. That's true. Okay, no, so nothing. Forget it. It's gonna be a surprise.
well, you'll if you play the humble Hive boys, you will see the video.
Okay, you'll
We
see
will
one
challenge you. We will challenge you with our challenge video at the beginning of every match.
to scare you off.
Isn't that right, Jack?
Where are you from? Are you all from US in your team or
No, we're spread out. We There are four of us
sorry?
on our team. Big Meep is from the U.S. He and I are both from the U.S. Then we have Ivan, who plays under Suicidal Bee. He's from Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And George plays under Mirmegi. He's from Greece.
Ah, right, right. Okay. So
So we have
an international team.
an
Actually,
international team. Yep.
actually, my team as well. Um, we got two Swedish, one Italian, and one American, one United States.
You're the High Vikings, right?
Yes, we're the Vikings. Although only half a team is a Viking. I'm quite far from it. I'm quite Mediterranean. I don't know if I
Although
can.
I was
Ah,
reading I was doing some study of some history, and the Norsemen did come down as far into the Italian peninsula.
okay.
They did some shipping into the Mediterranean as well.
Yeah, it's a. I don't know how we'll call it. For
And
now,
so
Viking.
Apollo Q is part Swedish.
Yeah, John part. He has some. I don't know ancestors in Sweden apparently. I don't know if it's true or we just made it up to make it a bit more more cohesion in the team. But no, I think it's true. I'm the
So
only
I
one who doesn't have any Swedish relative.
so I was quite impressed with the fact that they've got 11 teams joined up.
I
And of
was
course,
as well.
what we're talking about, of course, is the let's see, what do they call it? They call it the
Hive Fair
Hive Fair
Play
Play
Cup.
Team Championship,
Hive Fair
Hive Fair
Play
Play
Cup.
Cup,
Hmm.
and it
And
started by a group from Hungary,
the
the
Hungary Hive
Hungarian
Club.
High Club. Yep.
They are super active and
Yeah.
they're organizing quite a few things. I've just watched yesterday the video they released on YouTube. It's an interview with John Yanni.
Mhm.
Um, the video is very well done, and the interview is interesting. Um, I think we'll
Well,
do something similar with you today, and they probably gonna do something with you as well, right?
they've actually filmed it. They're waiting for some additional information from me.
Okay,
Lazi
okay.
Lazi and his
Lazio.
wife Orshi is a professional uh, broadcaster, and so she has lots of experience both on camera and behind the scenes, and so you can see that
Mhm.
in their video.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, good, good. I'm really happy to have communities expanding, and it's taking like it's becoming a bit more structured, let's say, because we don't have a federation yet, but maybe one day. I don't know. You think it's a viable thing? Should we aim to do that at some point, or it's not actually something?
I think it should happen. I think all the major games have some sort of a federation. I mean, it probably never will get to the point of FIDE with chess,
Yeah.
but I think
Oh,
it's well deserving of it. And this
yeah.
year, the 2022 is going to definitely be the most exciting year so far because we have the again, we have the Hive Online World Championship, but also Stepanzo started the King of the Hive competition over at BGA. That has turned out quite exciting. And
That's a
then
turn-based event, which has a structure of a sort of a league. So different groups, different divisions, and
like a ladder.
yeah, and they play a round-robin tournament, and the first one gets promoted to the upper group, and the last or the last two depends on the group gets demoted. So yeah, it's quite cool. It's quite a cool idea.
And then are we going to have another Hive Rapid Grand Prix this year?
We haven't actually organized anything yet. I think there are quite a lot of things already, but I can still see some people would enjoy some rapid tournaments. So maybe not a proper Grand Prix. Maybe we'll keep it for next year. But I'm sure we'll have maybe one or two rapid tournaments at some point. Also keep in mind the Mind Sports Olympiad this year as well has included Hive. They split it this year in two events. There's one online and one in person. The one online starts in April, I think around Easter time, and there's surely Hive, like was last year and the year before. For the in-person event, I'm not sure yet, because they always have less games clearly because it's over 1 week, so they need to make a selection. Basically, they can't have tournaments for every single game. So I'm not sure if Hive will be included, but there are chances as well that might be an in-person tournament. We'll see.
And you have an advantage there because of the in-person tournaments right there in London, right?
Yeah, it's in London.
And so how did you do last year in the MSO?
Thank you for the question, Randy. That was not prepared at all. I I got
Yeah, I believe that.
I got the bronze, the third place in the Hive base game. It's actually weird because the base game is something very far. I never played base game. I honestly forget. I forgot how to play properly base game. But I don't know. Somehow was fine, and I got This is the last year medal, 2021. I don't know if you can see it. Probably the focus is not great, but it's pretty cool this year because it's the 25th year of the Mind Sports Olympiad. The first year was 1997. And the year before I got, I'm sure you got a medal as well, right? But this was
No,
the year before.
both years I was on the commentary team doing the live broadcast, so I didn't play either one.
Okay, yeah, I mean, makes sense. I would have. I don't know if I would have prefer. I think I would prefer to play. I would like to do both, but I would prefer to play probably.
Well, I attempted once to do a live stream while I was playing, and it is extremely difficult to do.
Yeah,
Because on a live stream, you really need to continue conversation so that everybody is involved in the live stream. And when you get playing, it attracts your attention away from the live stream. And so I ended up not doing either one of them very well.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably not worth it. I tried during the Grand Prix, the rapid finals. I don't know. I don't think it was particularly entertaining because I had to spend most of the time, as you say, thinking about what I need to do.
Well, I've done 2 videos on the first 2 rounds of the Rapid Grand Prix finals, and I'm ready to do my third one. The third round was a lot more exciting than the first 2, so that should be a good video. Hopefully, I'll be able to record that tonight and get it out in the next day or so.
Okay, great. Okay, I think we can just let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
So I asked Randy to to be here with me today, because I think he's got a lot of interesting stories about Hive, about like his story with Hive, his approach with Hive, and it's gonna be an informal chat. So we're gonna, I mean, we already started before actually recording the live, and we're gonna continue just a stream of thoughts. I think a lot of interesting anecdotes and story will come up. And you don't even probably need to watch it. You can even keep it as a podcast, like in background and just listen to it, because I don't think we're gonna show anything particularly interesting, and our faces are not particularly interesting either.
I don't know. Speak for yourself there, Frasco.
Okay. Apologies. Actually, also you have a much nicer room than mine.
Oh,
Mine is a total
did
mess.
did you see my video about my ship's wheel?
I did.
So that's
The,
my favorite
the
possession in this room.
there's a story behind it, right?
Yes. There's the real story, and then there's the story I tell people.
Well,
But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Hive. So,
okay. Well, okay. I'll do a brief introduction. I mean, you probably don't need that, but no, surely you don't need that. Everyone knows your work with Hive. But let's do historical. Let's start from the beginning. But for those who don't know you, well, first of all, you won a world champion in 2011, Hive World Champion. You've written a book, Play Hive Like a Champion, which was the first book I think ever realized ever published on Hive, and it's also probably the book everyone should read at the beginning. I think it's like the sort of stepstone, like before reading it, you just have fun, and then after reading it, you start to understand. Oh, this is a proper game. I want to get into it. Your level jump. Randy is also part of the organizing committee of the World Championship, and has a YouTube channel which is pretty successful. He's got loads of video where he explains, well, you probably know already, but loads about Hive strategy, analyze games, and so on and so forth. Okay, should we start from the beginning? Like, how did you actually get to know Hive?
and
How did it
that's
happen?
an interesting question, because I became a board game geek subscriber and regular visitor about the same time I found Hive on boardspace.net. And I can't remember which I found first. I don't remember whether I found Board Game Geek, and then on Board Game Geek I found Boardspace and Hive, or vice versa. But that was both back in about 2007, somewhere around there. And I played a little bit and then let it drop. And then in about 2010 is when I picked up and started playing regularly.
So just by chance, basically, that no one
Just by
like
chance.
introduced it to you. Okay.
No.
But did you play other games on board space? Like, did you
Well,
have?
over the years, I played a whole bunch of them. Kind of like you, I like two-player abstracts more than I'm not into Euro games and things like that.
I've
But
seen you playing lately Kingdom Builder, right?
yes, and what I've been, typically since Board Game Arena started with Hive, I don't know how long ago that was now, 7 or 8 years ago,
I
when
think,
they
yeah.
since Board Game Arena picked up Hive, I've always had something on Board Game Arena that I was playing, because I don't care whether I win or lose at Kingdom Builder right now. I do care whether I win or lose at Hive, although it seems like I'm losing a lot more recently, and I owe that a lot to my book. Uh-huh. So the so Kingdom Builder is the one that I'm happen to be playing right now, because I can sit down and play a 15-minute game of that and not care whether I win or lose,
Okay.
and it's a fun abstract game as
Also,
well.
it's not two-player, right? It's multiplayer.
It's multiplayer, right? And I didn't know whether I'd like the two-player version or not. The two-player version is in the arena. Most of you that are watching are probably familiar with Board Game Arena and the arena competition every quarter. It's been three-player up until this quarter is two-player. So, and I've discovered that they're like two completely different games, two-player and
Mm.
three-player. But I enjoy two-player as well.
Yeah.
So unlike you as a really top chess player, I quit playing chess many years ago because I became a chessaholic, and so I tell people I'm a reformed chessaholic. I
I will.
still watch it and I still keep track of it, but I don't play.
I was saying to Randy just before the live that it's something that happened many times. You get obsessed with a game, but especially with the games where there's a lot of strategy involved, and you want to get better and better. And with chess up and stuff like that, I also Randy was saying he's got tons of books, like hundreds of books, chess books. I've got a few tens of books and maybe 50 books as well, something like that. Once you get into it, you can't you can't undo
It's very
it.
difficult. So
Um,
I think there's a relationship between chess and Hive. John Yanni, who designed Hive, of course, refers to it as chess without a board. And so
mhm.
it has a lot of the same concepts. You have a singular goal, and you have pieces that move differently and different numbers of pieces. So I think there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that intrigued me, I think, with Hive at the very beginning was that superficially, Hive seems to be a very simple game
Hmm.
that you can play at that level and you can teach your grandkids and your kids and play at that level if you want. But once you get into it, you realize that there's a depth of strategy involved that is much more deep than what you originally see.
No, you're talking about grandkids. There was a picture in your book, right, where you playing with your granddaughter, right?
My
Is it?
granddaughter, yep,
Okay.
she just turned 17, so she's not really interested in playing anymore.
Oh yeah, but yeah, I was actually curious because that was 10 years ago, right? You published the book in
Correct,
2012, I think,
correct.
the year after you won the championship.
Because it would have been really hard to call it Play Hive Like a Champion if I hadn't won a championship.
Yeah, sure. That's
Play
well,
Hive
it
Like a
could.
Champion sounds a lot better than Play Hive Like a Runner-Up.
Yeah, I mean, I could. For example, in BGA, there are different titles, right? Expert, master. I'm still not a master, so I can't say play like a master, but I can teach probably people to play like experts if BGA titles like made sense. But anyway,
And you had talked a
um,
little bit about history. So actually the first tournament I played in, I won it. I won the tournament the first one I played in,
and Hive,
and in Hive, yeah,
you mean
and
the
that
World
was a lot.
Championship?
World Championship, yeah, because back then that was the only tournament around. That
Yeah,
was
true.
the at one time on the uh, Gen 42, which is the company that originally published Hive and still is the publisher in the UK. On their website, you could play online with a very rudimentary AI, and then
Oh, really?
BoardSpace has their AI, which is exceptional good way to learn. You can learn the basics. I mean, you can get to the point where you can beat the AI regularly, and
Mm-hmm.
then you'll get pounded by a real person. But it does give you a lot of assistance on learning how to play. In fact, that's
So,
one of the things I would really like to do is set up an AI tournament because
mm,
uh,
how many eyes there are around
Chauvet,
now? Ah, yeah,
what's that?
there's the.
He has a very good uh, Android app that's
Mm-hmm.
interrelated to BGA that you can play, and it's pretty good actually. And so there's there's 2 or 3 places that have AI right now. But
I think.
back in the very beginning, the first tournament, the first World Championship tournament was held on Board Space in 2007,
Mhm.
and then
And it was
in two
organized by Dave Dyer, right?
by Dave Dyer. Dave Dyer is the administrator at Board Space, and we owe a lot to him because he provides that website at no charge. I'm sure it's a labor of love on his part, but there's a lot of work goes into it. And he's been doing the tournament there since 2007. And back, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, I asked him if we could run it ourselves, and so he allowed us to start the committee. So the committee's been administering the Hive tournament since then.
So 15 years ago. Sorry, go
on. That's fine. And we have also Christian Sperling, who plays under the name of Eucalyx. He was my original Hive mentor, and he's played in every World Championship since 2008. He was not there in the very first one, but he's been in that one ever since, and he's one of the top players in the world. And he was a tremendous assist to me in my book. When I put together my first copy of the book and sent it to him, oh, he almost flipped out. It was so bad, and he came back with all kinds of advice and assistance, and so he's been a tremendous help. That's Eucalyx Christian Sperling. He's down in Australia now.
He's very good with the design.
Very.
And he's also very good at teaching, I think.
He's very, very good teacher. And he was instrumental in the tournament opening rule, because in the 2008 tournament was the first one that had the mosquito. He and Sean Chong from Malaysia, they played, I forget exactly, I think it was 2 wins for Chong, none for Eucalyx, and like 27 draws or something like that.
So
that was just because if you don't play with it, just most of you know, but the tournament opening rule doesn't allow your queen to be placed as your first piece. And if you don't play with that rule, you get an advantage if you place your queen earlier than your opponent, and so ends up both players place their queen side by side, and then you end up in a draw. Because it's hard when the 2 queens are side by side, it's very easy for a draw to occur when that final kill shot, as Joe mentioned in his book, The Canon of Hive Groundwork, when that final kill shot is taken, if it surrounds both queens, it's a draw.
So the match was played at best of how many games?
In the very early days, it was the first person to be 2 games ahead of their opponent.
Okay, so that's why.
So you could win. If you won the first 2 games, it was over. If you won, I won, you won, I won, you won, I won, it could go on to 12-10, like a tennis match.
Yeah. It was not very forgiving.
No.
After 2 win, over. Okay. But I'm glad it happened actually. All these draws, because we evolved the game to a much better state now, I think.
I don't think there's any question. I think that without that rule, it would not be the competitive game that it is now.
Although we're talking about this, we haven't actually tested how the pillbug would, or even the ladybug, right, would interact with this rule. I mean, I don't think, my opinion, wouldn't change too much. Still, the opening rule should be the standard, but I don't know. There's no experiment, right? There's no test done yet.
No, it would be interesting to see if you play what we call Tournament Hive, which is all 3 expansions, then it would be interesting if some of the top players got together to play without the tournament opening rule. But it's it's fairly well established right now that the major tournaments are, and the World Championship will always be tournament opening rule and all 3 expansions.
Mm-hmm.
Because the history of Hive is after the Mosquito came out in 2007, then the Ladybug in 2010, and the Pillbug in 2013. Before the Pillbug came out, if you play with both Mosquito and Ladybug, White has a big distinct advantage.
Also, how did you? So I feel I have the same feeling, but how did you actually end up with that conclusion?
If you played a lot, like when the year that I won the tournament was the first year of the Ladybug, half the games were played with just the Ladybug, and half the games were played with Ladybug and Mosquito.
Okay.
And between 2 close to equal players, the first player to get a draw or a win with black would win the match.
Okay. So
because there was an absolute distinct advantage to playing white when you play with both the Ladybug and the Mosquito.
And that was 2012, right? 2011
It
or
was a
12.
2011 tournament. The Ladybug came out in 2010. The first tournament was in 2011.
So the one that you played had both, right? Mosquito and Ladybug.
It had the Ladybug and the Mosquito, and the rules set aside by Dave Dyer at that time was the games would alternate. Half of them would be played with just the Ladybug, and half of them would be played with Ladybug and Mosquito.
Okay. And then 2013, the Pillbug was introduced. Have you been involved at all in the design of the species? No, right? Did John Yanni, I don't know, ask for help to the community?
With the Pillbug, he did. And before we get too much further, I have to. There's my.
True.
My Hive trophy, and this is a one of a kind Hive trophy because it has a Ladybug on it, since it was the first year with the Ladybug. But when the Pillbug first came out, when John Yanni designed it, he initially introduced it on board space before he officially published the rules for it, and he allowed a lot of us to play with it on board space. And
were the rules different, or it was just
yes, they were different. The 2 huge differences, both of which changed. One of them, originally the Pillbug had a 2-step movement, just like similar to a Ladybug. One onto the Hive and then one off the Hive.
Okay.
So that was the Pillbug's movement.
In addition to the special power, let's say.
In addition to the special power. And there was no Pillbug immobilization rule. So if I place my Pillbug and you pinned it with an ant, I could just move your ant.
Okay. But that was clearly something to fix, right? I think that it would be quite clear quite soon that it wouldn't work.
It doesn't work. And the 2-step movement from the Pillbug made the Pillbug way too powerful.
I can imagine you can use it in defense and then move it to attack, or vice versa, like very quickly.
So after a couple months of playtesting on board space, John decided to do the one space movement, and then the Pillbug immobilization rule, so that you cannot move a piece that was just moved.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good balance. I mean, and a lot of games we played so far, I think, prove that it's quite balanced. I was watching yesterday I'm not sure if we talk about it in the live now, when we were talking about it before, but the Hungarian Hive Club released a video, an interview to John Yanni, and he actually confirmed again that he thinks that Hive is complete now, is quite balanced, and it doesn't need more expansion to come. Are you of the same on the same page? Would you like to see more expansions or similar?
Well, there was, in fact, if you in my book, in my first edition, I had a section on expansion bugs, and I was very much into looking at expansion bugs, but there are so many of them out there that I quit looking at them, quit paying attention to them. And I'm
You
kind of agreement with John that it's complete now. There's no reason to have any expansions.
you designed one as well, right? One or two.
Oh, I designed it, yeah, 2 or 3 different ones.
And Christian Sperling, Eucalix, designed the Dragonfly, which is
Correct.
probably the most famous one. And a lot of people agreed that it could have been a sensible addition. But to be honest, my opinion is the same. Is if we keep adding expansion, it becomes more similar to, I don't know, Magic the Gathering, or more similar to other games. I think it needs to stay, it needs to remain a certain way so that people have time to study it. And if you introduce just in whatever piece you want to introduce, then it will completely change the way you, a lot of strategies, the openings and everything. So I suppose it would be just, yeah, I don't know. On one side, it could make it become, I don't know, more creativity, push more creativity in the game. But on the other side, I think it will be just a pain to go through again.
The problem is that every time you introduce a new bug, you don't know how it's going to affect play balance.
Yeah, exactly. It needs hours and hours, hundreds of games to test. Yeah.
And that was one of the big questions. Go ahead.
I don't know. Go on.
That was one of the big questions when they were discussing all of these expansions, is how do they all interact with the mosquito?
Yeah.
Because the mosquito has a rule that says that if the mosquito climbs atop the hive, it stays as a beetle as long as it's atop the hive. And then once it drops down, it becomes whatever it's adjacent to.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a big question on, if you've got another top of hive bug and the mosquito's next to it, what happens? And so that was always a big discussion as well.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's always so Davo Waptus has agreed, too many expansions and you lose the prime strategy.
And
it
Lord
Harkness, well balanced now.
Lord Harkness is asking if we're gonna play a game at the end. But
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I don't think it wasn't in the schedule.
Also mentioned, Lord Harkness also mentioned LiHive, LiHive.org.
Yeah, which is a new platform.
A new platform.
Inspired by LiChess, which is an open source, very famous platform. It's probably the most used platform together with chess.com. But it's 100% completely free. That's an interesting thing. It just is supported by donations, and still works very well. So yeah, hopefully we'll have something similar for Hive as well, because we need a place where you can analyze a game, compare openings, find opponents quickly. On BGA and board space it's not very, yeah. There are lots of good things about this, but if we could combine the advantages of both together in a new platform, that would be great. I think. I don't know what do you think about it?
I agree 100%.
I wanted to ask you something. Well, actually, I'm curious about the book, because like I have I mean, you also played chess for a long time. So if I had to write a book, I have as a standard in my mind a chess books, sort of, right? I want to do similar things. But for example, there's still some debate about what kind of notation to use. The one that we use now on board space is probably the best we can have so far, but there are some proposals of having something a bit different that actually improves our ability to compare openings, to study the game more effectively without like be worried about rotations of the board and everything. So yeah, how did you? Yeah, you said that Christian helped you a lot, but I don't know. You want to talk a bit about the book in general? How did you? What was the
Well,
process?
let's see. I started a little paper. I actually bought a franchise for this paper called the Orange Peel Gazette. In fact, if you see my little avatar, the little orange guy
Okay.
is from this, and it was a paper where it was advertising and jokes. And in the
Okay.
course of doing that, I bought a desktop publishing program. But then in 2008, when the economy took a dive, that business died, and then I went back in the locksmith business for the company that I used to work for. And
Okay.
I still had this desktop publishing program, and I thought, I wonder if I could write a book. And so I just started spending my spare time uh, writing this book. And then I finally realized that, hey, I might be able to make some money off of it. And so I sent, like I mentioned to you earlier, I sent my very first copy to Christian Sperling, Eucalypts, and he immediately sent back with, "This is horrible." I mean, the content's good, but the presentation is really bad. And so he spent hours and hours and hours making sure that every photo, every picture was, he would blow it up to 1,600 times and then say that these two things don't align up. You need to move this up 1,000th of an inch. And so he was very particular about that. If you know Christian, you can understand that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then it finally became what I considered a viable product, and so I published it. And then a couple years later, when the pill bug came out, I added a chapter. I added a couple chapters actually, and for my second edition. And I'm actually working on a third edition now. What I've learned is, and I was talking to my son just over the past weekend, and he
Okay.
said, "Is your next book going to be less verbose than your last book?" Because what I've discovered is that one can say what I had to say with 40% fewer words. So my third edition is going to have the same content, but it's going to be a lot more readable and
Never
a
too
lot
late.
less a
So
lot
there's
less a lot less words in it.
okay. So there's not gonna be much more. It's actually gonna be less, more clear,
There's going to be more concise.
more concise.
So,
Okay. But you haven't add
but
more
again,
information, more new chapters or something like that.
no, I am working, and I've been working on this for a long time. I really need to make sure I get it done. I've been working on an elementary Hive book for beginners, and
Mm.
then I'll announce this here for the very first time publicly. The Hive lexicon will be published here within the next month, which
Cool.
is, if you've been following my channel, I did a whole series of little 1-minute videos with different terminology. And of course, Joe Schultz in his book, The Canon of Hive Groundwork, which is a, a more thorough, in-depth, much deeper book than my original one.
Mm-hmm.
He came up with a lot of concepts and a lot of terminology, and uh, I put those in the Hive lexicon. So that should be well. I'll make this promise to the Hive community that within a month I'll have it published and available.
Okay. It's more. I don't know how to say. It's more a booklet. It's not a real book, right? It's a list of all um, the words that we use, the jargon that we use when we play Hive.
Terminology and
Terminology,
descriptions,
yeah.
and some diagrams to show a lot of the terms.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't be a 100-page book, but it'll probably be, I think it's going to be like 36 pages,
Oh, okay, so yeah.
and will be available to purchase it in a soft cover as well.
Okay, cool.
And of course, we were talking about openings. If you haven't seen it, I did make available Shu, the Standard Hive Opening Encyclopedia, which was my attempt at standardizing Hive openings so you can compare them irrelevant of the rotation and reflections that can happen because of the hexagonal hive.
I was reading now, sorry, a comment on the chat by Kasikel, who was asking how important are openings in Hive compared to chess, for example. I think they are even more important, but I don't know what you think, Randy. By the way, in general, if you have questions, just drop them there, and at the end, or I mean, during the chat or at the end, yeah, we go through. If you have a question for Randy, sorry, go on.
I think that the opportunity to study openings in depth in Hive is much more available than in chess, because so much in chess has already been studied and studied so in depth. I mean, if you watch a video, a replay of a game, and they're talking about the Caro-Kann defense and such a variation, and the advanced pawn variation and whatever, those things have all been studied totally in depth, where Hive, it has not yet been studied. So I think there's a lot of potential in Hive. And I don't think, just from my playing experience, I don't think you can win a game of Hive in the opening, but you can definitely lose a game of Hive in the opening.
I think, yeah, it's less forgiving than chess in the first.
That's a very good way to word it.
I think in the first few moves, in the first 10 moves, let's say. If you get a decent position in the first 10 moves, then the game is balanced and goes on. But if you have no at all opening knowledge in Hive, I think it's not that easy to come up with something on the spot, you know. Something that looks reasonable, then you might end up having a bad position and you don't understand why. And maybe the reason was at move 5, and you think, oh wow, but why? At least this is what I think.
So the question was asked, which Hive game are you most proud of having won? Not including the one when you won the World Championship. And so
that was a question I was gonna ask as well.
So that would curious. There would be two games that would stand out, and one of them I don't remember specifically, but it would be the first time I beat Christian Sperling, because I went a long time without beating him, and I can remember. Do you know the term that I coined in my book, the fill, where you have a 3-bug formation, and then you bring a bug here into the elbow, which opens this one up and it allows it to move out, or you do something that create an alternative attachment to the hive and it frees up a bug. I remember exactly the game that I learned that concept from Christian, because I knew absolutely beyond the shadow of a doubt that I was going to draw. And Christian used the fill against me and beat me. So I can remember that one specifically. But it's the one you lost. You go back, that's one I lost.
You lost this game.
One of many that I lost.
Okay, what about the one you won?
But in the year that I won the championship, Fumanchu, Dimitris Kopsidis from Greece, he and I played a lot, and he was one of the top players. In fact, he did end up winning the. Let's see, he won the world championship in 2012, the following year after me.
Yeah, and
Uh,
yeah.
and he and I were constantly played a lot of games together. And again, back with the ladybug and mosquito, typically white would win. So if you could draw or win with black, you would win the match. And so
Mm-hmm.
the next to the last game in our match, we met up in the semifinals. The next to the last game in our match, we were tied, and I was playing black. And I also have to preface this with he and I were also notoriously slow players. We would take lots and lots and lots of time. And so I opened with what we would call now a buffer opening. I opened with a spider. So, in fact, I've never actually published this, but the ladybug mosquito opening, I've always in my mind referred it to as a Fumanchu opening because he was the first one to use that a lot. So
Okay.
instead of using ladybug and mosquito, I did spider, ladybug, and mosquito, which is what we would call a buffer opening now. And
Which
that was
wasn't very common back then, right?
totally unheard of back then. And it caused him to use a lot of time in the opening. And that was one of the keys to my winning that game was his lack of time.
Mm-hmm.
And he made an error at the end, which allowed me to win. And then the next day, I was playing white, and all I had to do was a draw to win the match and proceed to the finals. And so that's probably my favorite game of all time.
Nice. So to get back to the question, how openings are important, as you just mentioned, the surprise in the opening can be quite a powerful weapon, right? If you prepare well your game in the opening, then your opponent needs to spend a lot of time to figure out what's going on because it's out of the book. That's what at least we say in chess. And there are a lot of examples of this in World Championship of these things going on. So yeah, surely. I mean, this is one of the things I like the most about the game. That you can also prepare something against your opponent, but everyone has the same capabilities, you know. Like,
Right. It's a two-person abstract full information. There's nothing, there's no random chance and no,
yeah.
hidden movement or anything like that. So,
Okay. What should we talk about now? I was curious also about the YouTube channel. How did you come up with the idea? And
well, I wish I knew who it was so I could officially thank him, but I think it was, I'd have to go back and look. I think I started my channel in January of 2008. No, January 2018. And I was playing on Board Game Arena with a player, I think he was from Morocco, and he said, "You should start a YouTube channel." And I said, "Nah." He said, "Yeah, you should." And so at that point in time, with YouTube, you could actually, and he told me, he said, you could start making money from day one with the YouTube channel. And so when I decided to start my YouTube channel, the next week, YouTube changed the rules. So
you
you have
can't make
to,
money anymore.
to monetize, you have to have at least 1,000 subscribers, and I think it's like 4,000 watch hours over a course of a year. And so I did it just for fun for a while, and then I started looking into it. And a couple years ago, I decided to do it more seriously.
More. Mm-hmm. Well, you have
And
more than maybe 200 videos or something like that, right?
yeah,
Quite many.
and I still like live streaming. The live streams we get, quite a good audience and I have a very faithful group of followers that come on to almost all my live streams.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you figure out how much, so it is, I am making money out of it. If I calculate it out, I'm making probably 11.5 cents an hour or something like that.
Okay, well, Not a full job yet.
Not yet. No.
I wish I could like teach Hive as a job. One day probably would be a job as well, like teaching chess. But you got also what, 3,000 subscribers, right?
I don't know. I haven't paid attention recently, but
something
there's
like
quite a
that.
few.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people get into Hive just casually, like playing with friends, and oh, this is just a colorful and fun game. But then they get obsessed, right? And they want to beat their friends, and they start to type, and they find your channel. So yeah, pretty useful. Another question. Oh, by the way, if you have questions, just drop it in the chat. Another thing I want to ask is when you started, like back in 2007 or 8, there was not a community, right? A Hive community. It was pretty small back then, right?
There were just the people that played Hive on board space. That was about it.
So you knew each other just through board space, and that's it.
Just from board space, yeah.
Because I find hard to think how would have been. Yeah, I feel now we create a sort of family. There are a lot of people who know each other, even outside Hive, I would say, like as person. Of course, we meet and we schedule games. We want to play Hive, but well, I think a lot of people became friends as well, thanks to a lot of social media, right? So I don't know how it was back then. You just use board space to schedule your game, and
That was
that's it.
that was it. Yep.
How
And
many
of course, at board
people?
space, at board space, if you know how to do it, you can look up someone. It requires an email address. I guess you don't really have to put in a real email address, but you can gain email addresses of the people you want to play with and email them.
How many people were in the first tournament playing? Like 30 or something.
Well, in the very first tournament, I think there were 8.
Wow, okay.
Then it went 13, 16, 19, 26, 31, 37, 44, 46, 51, 55. And I didn't write how many there were 76 in 2020.
It got higher and higher, yeah.
Yeah.
This year in the Board Game Arena Swiss tournament, which is a qualification tournament for the World Champion, for the World Championship, sorry, there were 105 players registered, I think.
Yeah.
So quite an improvement. Lord Harkness, aka Jonas, is asking you, what's your best suggestion to get someone you think would like Hive really interested? I think, yeah, there are a lot of people who might play a game or two, but then say, okay, cool, that was fun, but then they forget about it. How do you hook them
up? I
up?
don't have a lot of experience with that because I play nothing. I don't play in person. So it's like, we were talking about Agad Mator, the chess YouTuber, and he always is saying when you're playing chess down at the library or the pub, there's not that playing Hive down at the library or the pub. Although Hive is much easier to play than chess because you don't have to carry a board around.
That can be a point. That can be a point to make with your friends.
I think you just have to, if somebody likes 2-player abstract games, you just need to say, hey, you need to pay attention to this, and play a few games.
But so you think in general, because I also find this problem, let's say, that people playing board games are usually split in two. ones who are more into strategy games with no luck, so pure abstract strategy games, and others who are into Euro games or American games, right? That's how it's called as well. Different sort of games, more casual. No, not more casual. Sorry, just a different,
A different genre.
different genre. Yeah, and it's hard to make one interested in the other one. I mean,
Right.
you might like one or two, but usually you're part of one of these two teams. Let's say. I don't know what do you think.
I think you're right. So the question would be then, Jonas, instead of asking the question he asked, it should be, how do you identify who the abstract players are so you can introduce them to Hive? I think that's a better question to ask.
So there's no hope. You mean for someone who plays I don't know,
No.
like Risk or Catan to get into. Well, at the Mind Sports Olympiad, there are all sorts of games and a lot of Euro games as well. Catan, King Domino, Carcassonne, but also hardcore abstract games like all Othello, all the chess. Um, there's also poker and backgammon. There are lots of people who play a lot of these different ones, but yeah, I think it's a minority.
And that's what the Mind Sports Olympiad is. Their goal is to identify the best overall game player. So you could be Magnus Carlsen could be the best chess player in the world, but he probably wouldn't win the Mind Sports Olympiad. He might win every chess tournament there, but he may not score enough points in the other games
Yeah.
to do well. Where the guys that are competing for the championship every year are good in multiple different games, in different genre
Yeah.
of games as well.
Yeah, there are not many. There are some chess players, chess grandmaster who play a lot Go or I don't know, Chinese chess, Shanji or Shogi. But yeah, definitely not that many.
See, that's where I
Or
think
droughts.
that Hive will take a big jump if one of the top chess players in the world picks it up and talks about it. Or
That's
back when the Big Bang Theory was being broadcast, I was hoping that they would play a game at one point. It seems like anytime they played a game on the Big Bang Theory, it always had a big upswing in that popularity of that game.
yeah. I mean, yeah. I think every show would help. Um, yeah. Okay. Jonas is asking now. I think well, no, maybe it's just a comment. The difference between Euro games and pure full information abstract games is that the former tends to lead to more social interaction during gameplay. The hand and brain Hive setup puts more player interaction. I know he loves hands and brain. But yeah, of course, you can create a variation of every game, I suppose. Like you can tweak the rules to make it more interactive or more serious or more for any game. But the game itself is still intrinsically different from a Euro game, right? One of the like non-full information game that I like the most is Dominion. I don't know if you ever played.
I've never played it.
I think it's very close to be full information. Because you can, once you understand the combo between the cards, of course you need to do some calculation about what card can come up, but you have a big advantage and the luck is very, very reduced. But anyway, sorry, I don't want to talk about it. Jonas is asking if you are going to get the Big Bang Theory cast into playing Hive.
No, I have no contact with them, so no.
Also, Big Bang Theory, I think it's over, right?
It is. It's
How
over.
many?
Yeah,
How many season? 12, 13, something like that.
12 or 13, something like that.
Um, I haven't watched it actually, the last 2 or 3 seasons. But yeah. What else we can talk about? What series are you watching now? It's something you want to suggest? Are you watching some series or movies that you want to suggest?
No, I
Good advice.
due to the pandemic, we don't go to movies at all. Although we didn't go to movies much before, but and I watch very little television. I watch a lot of YouTube. There's some YouTubers that I really enjoy. Uh,
Such as? I
oh,
don't know if you wanna.
I'm trying to think of his name right now. Uh, my brain, when you're in 2 weeks, I'll be 69, so my brain is, old.
69.
So let's see, what is his name?
I didn't want to get into more personal question, but
The well, I like stand-up math guy, Matt Parker, and Number
no.
File.
Oh,
Those
number
are
file, yeah.
Number File. I enjoy those. My degree's in mathematics, so I kind of enjoy those math kind of things.
Your degree is
Uh,
mathematics.
yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I didn't remember actually. So yeah, maybe let's see what outside Hive. What was your life before Hive? Let's say.
Well, let's talk about my life with Hive as well. I mean, my family and I were Jehovah's Witnesses, and so that we take that very seriously, and so that's an integral part of my life and my study of the Bible and
Mm-hmm.
as a Bible teacher as well. And so
Okay.
that, for example, is why when the uh, Rapid Hive Grand Prix finals were on a Sunday morning, that I wasn't able to live stream because there are some things that are more important to me than Hive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Sunday morning for you is always
Well,
you're
it's not
always
always
busy,
because
right?
our congregation, we usually switch meetings from morning to afternoon. So some years it's afternoon, some years it's morning. But
Mm-hmm.
with the pandemic, we're doing everything on Zoom, and
Mm-hmm.
so we're not meeting in person anymore. And all of where most people that know Jehovah's Witnesses know us as going out and knocking on doors, which we don't do anymore because of the pandemic. But we write lots of letters and make lots of phone calls,
I received an email
and
as
so
well.
and send emails. So most of my Hive buddies have gotten emails from me because
The-
that's the most important thing in my life is that. And you asked me about what I do for work.
Mm-hmm.
My dad started locksmithing when I was a little kid, and so I changed the tumblers on my first lock when I was 8 years old. And when I was going, I played tennis through high school, so I went to college on a tennis scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in school, everybody was saying, "Well, what are you going to do when you graduate?" And my answer was, "I'll probably go back and be a locksmith," and that's what I did. I went back and went to work for my father, and a year later, unfortunately, he died, and I took over the business and ran it for 26 years before I got burned out in multiple different ways and sold the business to my sister and moved over here to where I am now. And
Where
met my
where are you now? In Orlando,
I'm
right?
in the no, I'm in the Daytona Beach area.
Okay.
So I'm near Orlando, but Orlando is very hectic and lots of people and lots of traffic. We're over here in Daytona Beach. It's nice. We've got right over there, not too far is the beach, not the bad traffic that Orlando has.
And that's why the wheel behind you.
Well, well, if you want to know the story of the wheel, look
You
my
have to.
video up. I
Okay,
have a
okay,
video on it.
okay, okay. Let's tell everyone to
And
go and
then
watch the video.
subscribe, click the notification bell, tell your friends and neighbors
About the story of the wheel.
about Play Hive Like a Champion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Um, so I want to ask you about. Um, oh wait, I had actually a question on Discord by Stepanzo. I don't know if you read it. The
No,
question to a Floridian from a friendly Seattle. And the question was, how many pet alligators do you have, and what's their hive elo? I don't know if it's a in joke for.
well, in all seriousness,
Mm.
every lake or pond that's an acre or more in Florida has an alligator in it.
Okay, why is that? Sorry if I'm a bit ignorant about it. I'm
Because alligators live in the water and they're everywhere in Florida. I mean, they're all over. In fact, I I probably won't be able to see it. I have a picture. The as Jehovah's Witnesses, the building that we attended, we call it a Kingdom Hall, and I have a picture of our retention pond at our Kingdom Hall with an alligator in it, probably a 3-foot alligator in it,
So you can
because they're
just find
everywhere.
them like easily around
Oh, they're everywhere. I mean, they're
Okay.
they're nocturnal, so they are primarily out at night, and they're shy, so they stay hidden. So it's not like you can, go out and find one immediately, but we have in the house that we live in here, there's a retention pond behind us,
Uh-huh.
which is big enough. There might be one in it. There's no houses on the other side, and down at the other end, there might be an alligator in it. Haven't seen one yet, but there probably is. I mean, they're all over.
Okay. Okay.
But
That's a
most of
bit.
them, most of them don't play Hive, so I haven't yet gotten one to play Hive.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Stepanson, but nothing. But to me, it's quite scary, to be honest. Sounds
And then
scary.
the other comment that I would make to Stepanzo is we get the same amount of rain here in Florida as he does in Seattle. The difference is ours comes in a thunderstorm in the afternoon where we get 2 inches of rain in 20 minutes, and his drizzles all day long.
Okay, that's the difference between Seattle and Florida. Okay. Okay. It's, it's like a
In
joke we
fact,
do here between London and the rest of Europe. Sort of.
and of course you have to say thank you to Florida because we send the Gulf Stream and all the warm water of the Gulf Stream up to keep you warm there in the UK, in the British Isles.
Okay, okay. Maybe we'll have another live stream with you two guys. But
I've never
but
done I've never done an escape room.
so the question by Davawapta was if you ever tried an escape room. But you know
I
what is
never
an escape room.
I
You know how
do.
it
I never
works.
have done it.
Yeah. I mean, it depends. Some escape rooms I think are good and they're quite fun. But it depends on what kind of riddles you need to solve. Um, if there were hive puzzles in the escape room or chess puzzle, that would be different.
Well, then we need to get
Did,
Jonas to do
uh,
an escape room with Hive puzzles.
did you like the book, the hive puzzles book?
The only thing I didn't like was they should have published it in a printed form.
I think you can still you can print it by yourself, but they probably can put it in a sort of in a layout that can be then printed or print yourself, right?
Well, you can
Um,
go on in fact, I was thinking about this the other day, and maybe if Jonas is watching, he can answer this. I know that after the book was published, a lot of people came up with alternate solutions.
mhm.
Has there been a second or third edition of that first puzzle book with the corrections and changes and recommendations?
I think I think at some point they updated it.
Okay.
Um, I'm not sure 100% though. Let's see if he's around. Yeah, there might have been a reason not to publish it, not to print it. because you want to wait at least a bit to see if there are mistakes around, right? Because there's no for chess it's easy. You take an engine, a strong AI, and try and see what's the solution. But for Hive, we are all human, and I mean they've done a great job. But out of 50 puzzles or 60 puzzles, there might be some mistake here and there, right? Some of them are
So do you
really
think?
complex. Sorry?
Oh, they are. So do you think there'll ever be a Hive AI like Stockfish?
I mean, at some points, for sure. If the community keeps growing, yes. Um, I mean, the most obvious thing to me, that I don't know actually how to code anything, would be to use the architecture of Alpha Zero, right? Or Lila Zero, that is the open one, the free one, and apply to Hive, and we will get a deep learning based AI, which is supposed to be really strong. Although some people did not agree with that for some reason, I'm not sure.
So if
But
that happened, do you think that Hive would be solved and everybody would know that white wins or black wins, or it's all going to always be a draw?
um, well, I should ask you. But I I think I don't think it will be solved, but there might be the risk that some openings would disappear. I'm just afraid of that. That it might tell us that maybe 2 or 3 openings are actually very very close to solve the game, while all the others are wrong, and then everyone will play just those 2 or 3 openings. Of course, every opening after a while that no one can remember 30 moves
Right.
in a row. So at some point you start to play for real, but or maybe the other issue might be that it can actually experimentally, weakly solve the fact that the first player has an advantage. That might be a problem, which might not be evident for us, maybe. At the moment, I think from the statistics that Jonas did last year, I think, the sample is not that big, but it was a few hundred games. It seems there is a wide, first player advantage, but it's not much bigger than in chess. I think it's maybe 3-4% bigger. And since we don't have an AI, a strong AI for the moment, and we haven't studied in depth yet, I think it's pretty acceptable, right?
So now here's the most important question. Will somebody other than Judoka or Quadlibet win the world championship this year?
That's a very interesting question. Sooner or later will happen, but yeah, I mean, we are tired of seeing judoka and Quadlibet winning all the time. Come on, guys,
So
let
17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. At least this year, it wasn't Judoka and Quadlibet in the finals.
yeah, there was Duby.
It was Doobie, yeah.
But I feel it wasn't very. He played well the first 2 or 3 games, but then I don't know. Either he wasn't in shape or I don't know. But he didn't play as his best, I think.
Are we talking about Joe?
About no about Duby Frank.
Oh, okay.
Well, also judoka probably because
And he
uh,
well,
he
I know
got
that Joe was
beaten.
working on it. Joe had a plan on 3 books in a trilogy, the Canon of Hive trilogy, and he's working on the book on openings now. So that will be interesting to see
We're
when
all
that comes
looking
out.
forward to that. Yeah, I honestly want to understand. I want to know what's his approach, how he's gonna approach openings. Because his first book was really good. He introduced a lot of new concepts, um, and yeah, I think everyone should read it. maybe the metaphor, the judo metaphor, is not something I understand very much. But he's a judoka. He's a so I think I understand the charm of the metaphor, and we'll see. I mean, there are lots of very good players that every year they get very, very close to win the World Cup. Well, there is Eucalix, there is CG, one of the player of the Hungary chess club, Hive club.
Gonzo is always a top player as well.
There's the Panzo. Yeah, I mean, a happy Kiwi. Although I think last year, I'm not sure if he got. No, he didn't get into the quarterfinal. But yeah, I mean, it's just I feel Quadlibet is very. If I have to make a comparison with Carlsen in chess, I think is the closest. The closest comparison I can make. Because he plays very well. I don't know how to say. Like on average, he plays always better than other people, but it maybe doesn't play in an extraordinary way many times, but he plays just enough to beat everyone. And he never really blunders. His level never drops below a certain standard.
Well, what impresses me so much about him, particularly watching a game live, is that he will spend. Let me back up a second. In chess, the games last 6 or 8 hours sometimes, and they have hours of time, where our time limits in Hive are not that long, but he will spend 8 or 10 minutes studying a position, and then he'll move very quickly for a while. So he obviously is studying that position quite in depth. And one of my problems personally is I am so afraid of allowing my opponent to get a beetle or mosquito atop my queen and qualify for the win, as Joe uses the term, that sometimes I will get myself in a position where I can't win because I'm trying to stop that and end up not being able to win. Where that's one of the things I really enjoy about watching Quadlibet is he knows when it's okay to allow your opponent's beetle to come up atop your queen, and then can still have enough tempo in hand to win.
I agree.
And I think he has an in-depth understanding of that to a degree that most people don't.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think you nailed the reason why it's so good. I mean, judoka is also incredibly good in a different way, though. I think they have different style. I don't know how different, to be honest. I don't know what would be the difference. But he's also very precise. But I like Quadlibet's style, the way he counterattacks. As you say, he allows certain things. He tricks you in thinking that some things are important and then they're not. And then you spend your moves trying to, maybe get a beetle top of the hive or some other kind of maneuver, and then you find out it's not important because he already got what he wanted.
He lets you win the battle, and then he wins the war.
Yeah, sort of. With judoka, I think it's different. It's just you go maybe for the same battle, but he does it in a very precise way, accurate way. And then slowly you realize your game is over. But you sort of understand what's going on. It's just you don't know what to do.
He doesn't allow you to have a path to victory.
Yeah, exactly. I think your style is quite different again. It's more, you work more on prophylaxis, for example, right? More on preventing your opponent to capping off, for example, the attacking pieces.
And that doesn't always work.
It doesn't always work, of course. Yeah, it depends. But it's something that for some kind of players it might turn them off in a way. They might think, oh, they don't know exactly what to do. So I think it really depends. There's a lot of space, a lot of room for different styles.
Yeah.
Also,
So just
what's
out
your
of curiosity, how many people do we have joining us on the stream?
7 so far? I mean, at some point there were 10, 11. Wait, now right now 7. Is someone else who hasn't commented on the chat who wants to ask a question or anything? We'll see. I'm actually trying to how do you say to take your followers to attract your followers to this channel.
Well, I hope that they share them with you rather than just taking them.
I know, of course, no. I mean, in that sense.
So do you have a Buy Me a Coffee page?
I opened something else, so it's a different one, but the same style. But I don't have enough videos to. I mean, I have a TPE page. It's called TPE, and with the name of this channel, Abstra. So I wanted to expand not just to Hive, but to other Abstra games, and that was my idea. Although Hive is always my favorite. So
Well,
yeah,
make
of
sure
course.
you support
Yeah.
Fresco on this page.
Thank you, Randy, for saying that. But honestly, I don't have much video. I don't have enough at the moment. But I'm working on it. I'll try to put out more and more content. I think this chat was very nice, and there are a lot of curiosities that a lot of people don't know.
Will it be available to watch later?
Yeah, surely I'll upload it on the YouTube channel as well. On Twitch, you can watch it. I think for a week or 2, I can't remember, and then disappears. So I have to upload it on the YouTube channel anyway. I don't know what else, but I think we talked a bit about everything.
Well, I think we should do this more often and maybe invite another person in.
Yeah, we should do that. I remember once with Jonas we're talking about Christian Eucalix. I think he would have a lot of anecdotes to share. We're talking about the dragonfly, but I mean in general, he probably has a lot of story.
The only problem with Eucalix is we'll have to do it in the middle of the night.
That's true. So what? It's +10 maybe.
Yeah, I think he's +10.
From me it's +10. From you is +15. So now would be 6 a.m. Well, we'll find a way. That's the only problem with playing online, but I'm sure we'll manage. We can play also some games.
I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me on this live stream. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much to you for sharing your stories, your experience, and it was very interesting.
Anything that can promote the Hive community, and buy my book. Watch for the new one coming, the Hive Lexicon.
Buy Randy's book. Absolutely, it's the book. Play Hive Like Champion is the book. And then the new books coming out, I've read already the Lexicon book, and it's also very good and very useful for competitive players. It's a must-have, I think.
And we've got, this year should be very exciting because Frank Greasy, who wrote A Beginner's Guide to Hive, is working on another book as well.
Okay.
regarding the history of Hive and the Hive tournament. So that should be exciting when he gets that out.
That's very nice. That's very nice.
And Joe's second book should be coming out here very soon, I hope.
I if, I'm also trying to work on a book with Enrique Sedano, but it's very much in an embryonal stage. We have no clue if we're actually gonna make it. But our idea was to have move by move commentated games, book sort of. But we'll see. I don't wanna say anything because it's probably gonna come out in 10 years.
It is a lot of
Uh,
work.
yeah. It's much more work than one can think. So yeah, even more I appreciate you and Joe and Frankly's work. Okay, thanks again. Thanks for everyone for watching. Um,
Thank you. Thanks, Brasco, for inviting me.
Bye bye and keep playing Hive. I'll see you at the next streaming, next live.
Okay, bye.